Hello everyone. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about ranking on Amazon. So basically, I'm going to give you the magic solution to get on page one within 24 hours. Okay, I'm kidding. Not going to be doing that at all. What we're actually going to be talking about is the first principles on why certain ranking methodologies work and how you can start viewing your Amazon ranking strategy. So one of the reasons I really wanted to make this video is because there's been terms of service changes in the past and we're seeing a lot more ad saturation. So Joe Shelleroo just did an amazing video on how many ads are on page one, but if you don't really know, I always recommend go into Amazon, type in your number one, most important keyword, and then look for your product. Pretend you're a customer. You see a headline search ad, you see this new split sponsored product placement, you scroll a little bit lower, you see highly rated carousel, you see more results, a video, an ad, editorial recommendation, more ads. So a lot of brands that we audit will have a product that's right here, which is great because it's page one. 6 years ago, being on page one was the end all be all. But nowadays, there's so much advertising placements and just so much more competition that the majority of customers get what they're looking for somewhere up here. So as we're seeing increased costs, lower conversion rates, more competition, getting organically ranked high up, top 50% of page one, makes all the difference in your brand. So that's why I wanted to cover this kind of ranking on Amazon strategy. So we're going to do a little experiment to understand the first principles behind Amazon and what they're taking into consideration when they're ranking products. What would happen if you went to Amazon as a customer and you typed in the word chapstick, and the first thing you saw was an ad for mountain biking equipment, like you see here? Well, it's honestly a really terrible experience, right? The first thing you see isn't related to your product, which means you're going to scroll straight by because you don't want to buy mountain biking equipment. You want to buy chapstick. So Amazon optimizes pretty much everything for the customer shopping experience. So this is a very poor experience. They also don't make money if you don't click on their ads. So it's mutually beneficial to have highly relevant ads and or highly relevant organic placements. So bad customer experience. Relevancy obviously plays a pretty big role in everything Amazon's doing when it comes to advertising and organic rank. Now, what would happen if we went to Amazon as a customer and typed in the word chapstick again, and the first thing you saw was a product with a 1-star review, like so? Again, this is not a great experience. One, I don't want a product that hasn't been reviewed, and I don't want a product that has terrible reviews. So obviously Amazon's not going to take a bet and put a brand new product at the top of the page. So another bad experience. And Amazon just decided to show hundreds of thousands of people a product that didn't have a lot of data to justify its ranking. So having a lot of data to show good products to the right customers obviously plays a pretty big role in ranking as well. So knowing these two things, let's act like Amazon a 1,000 scientists here. This is truly how I view the algorithm team, so keep that in mind. Now, if we wanted to scientifically make sure our customers are seeing the most relevant products 100% of the time or 95% of the time, we would need to find a way to do that scientifically because no one wants to be doing that by hand. So the first thing we're going to look at when we're building a ranking algorithm is SEO. The moment a product is uploaded into the system, they need to have relevant keywords, backend, listing optimization, title, content. All of this is going to be the first signal we're sending to Amazon of where our product needs to go. Everyone knows that, right? It's a really strong indicator of, hey, this product probably goes in this category. So we have a new product. Amazon's now putting it in a bucket. They somewhat understand where a product needs to be shown, but they're not too sure. So they're going to do some more testing. Which brings us to the second point. If I'm creating an algorithm and I need to make sure a product is a product my customers want to see, I'm going to look at click-through rate. I'm going to make sure that when a customer sees my product, they click into that listing. That's going to tell me if it's relevant or not, right? If that first picture is highly aligned and looks just like the rest of search, it looks just like the keyword a customer typed in, that's a good indicator that product should probably be on page 1. Now, it's not enough for a customer to click in. Amazon also wants to see a customer purchase a product. So click-through rate matters, but conversion rate matters, maybe even a little bit more, because when a customer lands on that listing, they don't want to waste their time and see something that, oh wait, that's not what I meant. They need to buy that product. So click-through rate and conversion rate play a very big role algorithmically in products moving their way up on page 1. So knowing those things, again, chapstick. This is a product I'm going to click into because it is chapstick. It's got great reviews, great price point. All of these, are things that influence ranking. I'm just focusing on the big ones. But not only that, when a customer types in chapstick, they buy chapstick. So those two things are all very, very aligned with what we're seeing in search. So how do you then make sure you have enough data to truly analyze click-through rate and conversion rate? If we go back to our chapstick that had 1 review, that's not enough data to put on page 1 because that 1 review ended up being terrible. So consistent volume is a very big factor in Amazon organic rank. Amazon needs to make sure they have enough data to consistently say customers click into this listing and buy this listing for this keyword. Brings us to rank manipulation. 4 to 5 years ago, you could do what was called search, find, buy. You could drive a ton of customers to Amazon, have them type in chapstick, scroll through 3 pages, and then buy your product. Amazon would then see in a very short period of time, customers love to click into that product from that keyword, and they bought that product from that keyword. And then Amazon realized that, hey, this isn't really accurate results. People are manipulating the data. So that's why I added the word consistent here, because Amazon probably wants to see that volume spread out across a little bit longer of a time frame than what we used to see for ranking. So click-through rate and conversion rate plus lots of data equals organic ranking increase, which leads us to the actual strategies that we play around with knowing these fundamentals. Now, before diving into the specifics, I'm going to say there's hundreds of different things you can do to improve your organic rank. You can drive external traffic, you can drive high volume, you could do lightning deals, which are going to also, again, play into these factors: high volume, high conversion rate. But the reason I like to focus on first principles is because these are the basics that probably aren't going to change too much. Yes, you're going to hear all kinds of different theories on what that conversion rate number is, exactly what the click-through rate is, or exactly what the magic solution is. But if you focus on those hacks, they're probably going to change over time as Amazon gets smarter and smarter. So that's why we like to cover the basics. So knowing that, we like to set up a few campaigns. We typically focus on sponsored products because that is the highest volume ad type on Amazon. Sponsored brands have some of the best visibility top of search, but more customers are likely to click on the sponsored product ad because it looks identical to an organic placement. So what we do is we set up a few campaigns and then we focus on exact match because I only want to make sure I'm analyzing exact match data. I don't want any weird other search terms being thrown in there and making my data a little bit more diluted. So again, using our example, we'll take a few keywords like chapstick and lip balm. These are the 2 most important keywords. I want to get some data on them. We'll run them at super, super high bids for 24, 48 hour period, strictly so I can see how much that placement's going to cost me for 1, and 2, how well I'm converting for that placement. Because your conversion rate is really important. For this scenario, both keywords are converting pretty dang well, right? So it's not a concern. But if I saw lip balm was converting at a 5% conversion rate, that would be a major red flag. For one, why am I trying to rank on a term that customers are not appreciating or associating with my product? That tells me I have a listing issue, or they just don't like my product for that keyword, so maybe I shouldn't be trying to rank on it at all. And 2, it'll also tell me whether or not I'm going to get enough rank potential. Let's say I'm assuming my category average for conversion rate is 20 to 30%, and I look at this data and I look at my search query data and I see that I'm converting much, much lower. I'm not going to be able to compete for the top of search. So I need to pick better keywords or more long tail keywords, which are a lot more precise. Again, this is why I run this test to get 24 to 48 hours worth of data, because it's going to tell me how well I'm converting, exact match. And again, I like placing my ad at top of search, because if we go back to top of search really fast, if I have an ad that's right here for a couple hours and I see I'm not converting right there, why would Amazon rank me at the top of the page? Why would Amazon put my organic ranking here if I'm not converting here? Not a big difference in those two placements. So if I'm not converting on the sponsored ad, I'm probably not going to convert in the organic ad. So Amazon's not going to improve my organic ranking. Just doesn't make a ton of sense. And again, why would you want to invest a ton of money in trying to rank well if your rank's not going to stick, because you're just going to fall to the bottom? So that's usually a humbling experience for brands to see exactly how well they're converting for those terms, and then decide if they should invest more money in that term, invest more money in their listing, or find other keywords they could probably have a better opportunity to rank for. So this is a very good test for that. A few other things that are really cool to see is the slight discrepancies in conversion rate across pretty similar keywords. So right here, chapstick is at an 18% conversion rate, lip balm's a 25% conversion rate. Now, I could assume that chapstick's probably a lot more competitive because it's the more generic term. That's more than likely why the conversion rate's lower, is because I'm now competing against, chapstick, the actual brand name for the term I'm looking for. But sometimes you'll see discrepancies that'll make you realize, hey, I should optimize my listing. Maybe my title has lip balm in it instead of chapstick. Small tweaks like that will improve your conversion rate. So being able to see that data and exactly see the segmentation can be really powerful. Another key thing I really like to look at here is the CPC. So knowing that my CPCs are lower here and I'm converting really well, I would continue to push really, really high volume, because again, this is a ranking campaign, so that's my only goal. But I'm going to show you an example in a little bit where my ranking campaign was costing $8 a click. So I knew I was going to be taking a loss on that keyword, but if I'm improving my organic rank, it's okay, because that organic rank is going to drive so much an additional volume long term that it's okay if my advertising campaign for it's a little bit lower. So that's something that's really cool to see, and I really like this campaign structure for that reason. Now, quick example of the setup. Again, we'll set up separate keywords per campaign, so we have true distribution of budget. If I see chapstick's the one that I want to focus on more, I can give it a higher budget, give lip balm a lower budget, and I can segment my data easier. We don't run multiple ad groups because you can't control budget on the ad group level. Sometimes we will put top of search modifiers in there as well. Usually a high bid will do it for you, but if you have any form of software that's overriding your bid and focusing on optimization rather than ranking, we'll put a modifier in there so that way it kind of overrides it, so you won't have an issue there. Another thing to note, in the beginning, I will set super, super high bids strictly for data collection, right? And then I'm going to go into Amazon and confirm that my ad is showing up in the appropriate placement. If my ad is not showing up in the appropriate placement, my bid's probably too low, or it's a relevancy issue, which probably leads to my back end or my SEO. But if I see that my CPC is too high for a threshold that I'm comfortable with, then maybe I don't need to win top of search, right? Maybe I should be investing in other placements that are a little bit cheaper, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But this is the general structure. Again, this is not a profitability play. This is about gaining maximum traffic. This is because of the terms of service changes. We want to focus on rank. We want to see our conversion data, and we want to drive high volume. So keep that in mind. Here's a perfect case study of this test that we ran. So we are focusing on 2 keywords. We drove super, super high volume because our advertising conversion rate was 36%. Category average, according to brand metrics, which is organic and advertising data, so it's slightly different, was 27%. So we're able to go in here and know that we're converting so much better than category average that if I just drive high volume to this keyword, I'm going to send a very strong signal to Amazon that I need to be ranking at the top of the page for this. So our main focus was on basically when health and wellness was a focus for this product line. So we spent a lot of money in January, and we spent a lot of money during Prime. And we increased our organic rank from number 8 to number 3. And again, if you're familiar with what the search results looks like, that is a huge jump. That puts us in the first organic row rather than the row that's either below editorial recommendations or below video and search ads. So absolutely huge difference. Key things to note here is our cost per click was $8, but we were converting so well and our brand was so aligned with our organic focus that it was okay. So we spent a ton of money to drive high volume, knowing our conversion rate was fantastic, and the results spoke for themselves in this case. So a really cool case study on the metrics we look at and the effect it had on our overall performance. One other thing to note was our tacos stayed stable after the initial first 2 weeks where we increased spend. And that's because organic rank increased to the point where it was okay. We were spending so much money because not only did our sales have a decent effect, but our total sales also increased. So that was really cool to see. Again, the structure of that, 1 paranascent per campaign, no ad groups, 1 to 4 keywords per campaign, depending on budget. If you have a ton of money, you can sometimes put them in one campaign, but typically we want to split them out. High bids to win ad inventory, low budgets to control marketing goals. So within those first 48 hours, when you're just testing data at top of search, you don't want to hemorrhage money, especially in a very high volume category. I'll set, maybe $50 to $100 a day budgets until I can make sure I'm converting well for that keyword and not bleeding money. If I set, a $50 budget and I have a 2% conversion rate, I'll say, probably shouldn't be ranking on this. Let's pause the campaign and put our money elsewhere. Again, top of search modifier if needed to override software, just general call outs on the strategy and structure. Now, considerations. So I want to talk about some of the misconceptions we see in the space, the questions I get, the variables we look at. It always comes up of, hey, do you think sponsor brands help you rank? Do you think sponsor display help you rank? In general, yeah, I do. But high volume is a very key player. Amazon wants a ton of data. So where are you going to get the majority of that data? From sponsor product ads. That's why we typically focus on those. We do set up ranking campaigns for sponsor brands as well when we want to be top of search, but sponsor products drive the most volume. Comparing your conversion rate to your category to set your benchmarks is super important. I could tell you to shoot for a 40% advertising conversion rate because of this one case study I ran, but that would actually be terrible across the board. If you're in apparel, we've seen good advertising conversion rates be 5%. If you're in anything with decor, where people do more window shopping because they're looking for an aesthetic alignment, again, 5%. Some categories, 15 to 20% is healthy. There's really not a good answer for that other than looking at all of the data we do have. So brand metrics is one I really like to look at because that's going to show me advertising and organic, which is still a good indicator because your organic conversion rate is pretty aligned with advertising in that we don't have a lot of control over conversion rate with advertising. So it's an important metric to look at. If your conversion rate is poor, consider why. Can you improve your listing? A lot of people will give me 4 to 5 keywords that they're like, I want to rank on, and I'll see their conversion rate's terrible. And I'm like, oh, that's a really not a good sign. If you're bidding on your top keywords and people are not purchasing your product, that means that you need to improve your listing, or maybe you're in early stages. Maybe you have 20 reviews and your top competitors have 300 or 5,000. That means that you should probably look at more long tail keywords that you have a competitive advantage on, maybe a little bit more precise, maybe a little less competitive. So keep those things in mind. If you can't compete at top of search because it's super expensive from a CPC perspective, other placements can still drive a lot of volume. It just may take more time, right? So if you're not going to be showing up at the top of the page, every single customer who goes to Amazon sees these 2 ad placements right here. That's why I love this, because it's going to give me the most volume the quickest. But if you lower your bid to 40 cents because that's what you're willing to pay, and your ad shows up all the way down here, you're still going to get some conversion rate data. You're still going to get click-through data. So that's an important signal to Amazon, right? It's just going to be a lot slower because now your ranking period's going to be 40 days to drive the amount of sales that you could be driving by showing up at the top of the page. So very important to consider, especially because a lot of Amazon brands are so cash flow intensive that spending money on ranking campaigns can really cut a dent into their overall cost. So keep that in mind. And again, Amazon gives us that data. You can pretty much pull this average cost for this placement and then know your conversion rate and say, hey, this is how much I'm going to have to pay over this period of time for this ranking campaign. So keep those factors in mind. That's a conversation we have to work very closely with our brands to better make sure our ranking strategy is aligned with what they're willing to invest. Again, if a brand tells me I want to be number one for sunscreen and I tell them that it's $8 for this placement, and they say, hey, $2 is the max I can do. I'm like, cool, that's fine. But our ad's showing up at the bottom of the page instead of ranking within the first 2 weeks because we're driving such high volume and converting so well. We're now going to take 6 weeks to rank well because we're not driving as much volume for that keyword. So just important to understand. Overlaying your data with your search query dashboard will be pretty important. We want to make sure that our organic rank's increasing. So make sure you kind of analyze your organic ranking in the first place. That's always a conversation as well, is if you're investing in your organic or your ranking strategy, you need to make sure you're tracking the data appropriately. For most agencies, that's pretty complex because there's a lot of keywords to track across and a lot of advertising keywords to combine. So typically make sure brands are tracking that data and then we align the keywords we're bidding on with the data that they want to see and the keywords they want to invest in. Another consideration is if you see that number one placement on the page is $30 to $40 for cost per click, $30 to $40, we see that in quite a few categories nowadays actually. Maybe you should have a conversation of, should I shift that budget to external traffic? Now, your external traffic probably isn't going to drive as high of conversion rates or as high of volume, but if your cost per acquisition is a lot cheaper, 100% take a look at that. And then remember our variables we're playing with. You may just have to extend your ranking period to 6 weeks instead. So we've heard really good feedback from Google Shopping lately, TikTok, all of those platforms. We've seen really, really good attribution data, but keep in mind, purchase intent's going to be a lot lower. So cost per acquisition is how we need to start analyzing our traffic sources. Because even if you have a 100% conversion rate on Amazon ads, if you're paying $50, then maybe that 50% conversion rate from Google, even though it's half the conversion rate, the CPCs may be so much cheaper that it's more valuable and more efficient for you. So keep those things in mind. Last but not least, again, conversion rate, CPCs, click-through rate. These are the metrics that we're really looking at, not necessarily ACOS, not necessarily ROAS. We're wanting to focus on the factors that are more than likely going to drive a ranking increase. So this is it. I don't think I have any other slides. No, this is the core focus of really how we set up our ranking strategies, how we make recommendations for brands around ranking. Other things I think definitely play a role are like the back-end aspects, listing optimization aspects. Those are all really large factors that send traffic signals to Amazon. I just don't think anyone knows enough about those signals to come up with a evergreen ranking strategy. So that's something that I always try to keep in mind. And yeah, I think I covered most of it. So feel free to send me a message if you have any questions. Thank you all so much for making it to 23 minutes within the video. And everyone have a wonderful day. See ya.